Phytophthora Austrocedri is a new pathogen affecting our juniper plants, Juniperus communis. It was first confirmed in 2011. As of March 2015, there are now 63 sites in England and Scotland. These include natural environments, nurseries, and private gardens. It is usually recorded on juniper, although there have been occasional reports on Lawson cypress, Chamaecyparis lawsoniana, and occasionally Nootka cypress, Chamaecyparis nootkatensis. Phytophthora Austrocedri is being treated as a notifiable pathogen, and infected sites are subject to statutory control measures involving the imposition of biosecurity protocols and restrictions on the movement of livestock, plant material, and soil. Because of the rugged, wet, and remote nature of many of the affected sites, destruction of infected trees is not a feasible option. Where appropriate, disinfectant mats are being used at entry and exit points from sites with high levels of public access, and staff and visitors are asked to use them to kill any spores from the pathogen which they may have picked up on their footwear. Notices have also been erected at these public sites to inform visitors of the infection and to encourage them to observe sensible biosecurity measures, which include keeping to the footpaths, keeping their dogs on leads, and cleaning their shoes and boots after leaving the site. Phytophthora Austrocedri is widely distributed on juniper trees in the Cairngorm region of Scotland and the Lake District in the north of England, where juniper is relatively abundant. Phytophthora Austrocedri is a notifiable disease, and all suspected cases should be reported to the plant health authorities. So why are we so worried about the impact of Phytophthora Austrocedri? Well, juniper is a priority species for conservation, and it has experienced a significant decline in many parts of Britain in recent decades. It has now reached such a critically low level that Plant Life Scotland, the Forestry Commission Scotland, and Scottish Natural Heritage are working together to try and help conserve juniper in Scotland. There are only approximately 400 hectares, that is 1,000 acres, of juniper woodland left in Great Britain, and most of it is in Scotland. Phytophthora Austrocedri infections are usually fatal, and because juniper is such an important plant for a wide range of insects and birds, with a unique and specialised group of associated fungi and lichens, it is likely that as the population of juniper declines, so will these other organisms. Phytophthora Austrocedri is a root pathogen. It infects the roots and root collar and spreads upward through the stem. In the photograph on this slide, you can see the stem of an infected juniper which has had its outer bark removed. Beneath the bark there is a typical tongue-like lesion which is caused by the pathogen. The phloem is necrotic, often a cinnamon brown in colour, and there is a distinct margin between the diseased and healthy tissue. There are also resin pockets evident in the dead tissue. If you were to look closely at the lesion, you might see that there is also a distinct yellow coloration at the lesion edges. Once Phytophthora Austrocedri has girdled the stem of a tree, it will die. When the roots and collar or stem base of a tree are affected, initially the foliage appears a slightly lighter colour than that of other healthy trees. Later the foliage withers, turns bronze, and finally a light brown. This corresponds to the drying and darkening of the inner bark. This slide illustrates the progression of symptoms. Initially the foliage turns bronze. Then as it begins to dry, it becomes a light brown. The foliage dies back, and ultimately you are left with dry, dead branches. So what might produce similar symptoms that could be confused with an infection by Phytophthora Austrocedri? Well, other Phytophthora species can produce extremely similar symptoms, as they are also root pathogens. This would include Phytophthora cinnamomi, a pathogen that is already present in the UK on a wide range of host plants. Physical damage caused by heavy snow or drought might result in similar browning of the foliage, but upon examination of the stem you would find no associated lesions. So what are the biosecurity measures required if Phytophthora Austrocedri is present? Well, Phytophthora Austrocedri spores are most likely to be spread in soil and water, and the risk of infection is therefore highest on wet soils. Spores could be introduced from other areas on boots and tools, and so it is important to ensure that all footwear and equipment is cleaned down thoroughly and disinfected before leaving a site. It is also wise to make sure that no infected water, for example that from washing your boots, might enter watercourses on site to carry the free-swimming zoospores of Phytophthora Austrocedri. By emptying out your bucket of boot washing water onto a hard stand in a car park, it would be able to evaporate naturally. You should always follow full high-risk biosecurity measures each time you make a site visit.